Welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving right into a world-class, deeply mystical breakdown of the ultimate metaphysical protocol found in the Zohar. Today, we're exploring a profound conceptual landscape that has literally captivated Kabbalists for centuries, and that is the intrinsic, hardwired link between the physical and the spiritual realms. We're going to unpack the hidden architecture of the universe, focusing specifically on the relationship between the earthly city of Jerusalem and its celestial counterpart. And honestly, this isn't just ancient history or some abstract philosophy. It's a dynamic, living blueprint of cosmic engineering.
Okay, I want you to picture this in absolute cinematic 4K reality. Imagine the incredibly tactile, golden, sun-baked stones of earthly Jerusalem standing in massive contrast to the glowing, sapphire metropolis of the heavenly Jerusalem. We're looking at two vastly different dimensions here. Down below, you have a place of earthly dust, where physical pilgrims actually walked, where you can feel the heat radiating off ancient masonry. But then, look above. You have this ethereal, sapphire-lit metropolis just vibrating with pure divine light. It's a city of absolute spiritual perfection, existing completely outside of our standard concepts of space and time.
So this naturally brings us to a massive metaphysical question, right? How in the world do these two seemingly separate dimensions actually communicate and synchronize? If one is made of dense physical matter and the other is just pure spiritual energy, how does a human action taken down here in the dust actually trigger an influx of that brilliant sapphire light from way up there? I mean, how do we build a bridge across the infinite? To answer that, we've got to look at the Sod, which is the absolute deepest mystical secret behind the architecture of our universe. In the Pardes framework, which is the ancient Jewish method for analyzing texts, Sod represents the hidden, esoteric meaning. According to the text we're exploring today, primarily the Zohar, Sod refers to the hidden Kabbalistic energy mechanics operating totally behind the scenes of physical reality. It basically tells us that the physical world is not a closed system at all. It's actually an interactive interface that directly controls the spiritual valves in the upper worlds. Think of it like a giant tech ecosystem, which is just a brilliant analogy for this hidden energy. Lower Jerusalem, that's your local device. Upper Jerusalem is your pristine cloud mirror. And the earthly temple is the ultimate high-speed sync cable connecting both realities. Think about how your smartphone works. When you make an update on your local device, Lower Jerusalem, it doesn't actually mean much unless it connects to the server to back up. The Upper Jerusalem is that perfect cloud server holding the master code. But to push your local updates to the cloud and to download the latest operating system of divine light, you need a high-bandwidth sync cable. And physically, that was the exact function of the temple. All right, for the adults in the room who want to get into some serious cosmic engineering, we're going to trace this whole exhaustive Sephirotic engine from the ground up. The Kabbalistic tree of life, the Sephirot, maps out this entire sync process as a 4-step ascension protocol. We start way down at the bottom at Malchut, we channel that energy up through Yesod, we harmonize it in Tiferet, and we finally reach the ultimate destination of Bina at the top. Let's break down exactly what each of these components is doing in our universal engine.
It all kicks off at Malchut, the Lower Jerusalem. This acts as the crucial earthly anchor, and it absolutely must be activated by physical human action. Malchut literally translates to kingdom, and it represents our tangible, everyday physical reality. According to the sources, you can think of Malchut as a massive, heavy-duty receiver. But here's the catch. It sits completely dormant until human beings initiate the protocol. Without the physical movement, the prayers, and the actions of the people on the ground in earthly Jerusalem, that receiver remains totally offline.
Now, all the way at the absolute top of this system is Bina. This is the Upper Jerusalem, acting as this massive sapphire reservoir of divine light that is just waiting to be downloaded to the lower world. Bina represents understanding. It's the cosmic womb, the highest accessible point of divine influx in this context. The Zohar paints Bina as this endlessly radiant, overflowing source of pure spiritual energy. It's constantly full, constantly ready to pour out blessings in life. But here's the thing. It literally cannot release its sapphire light downward until the lower receiver, Malchut, is perfectly aligned and essentially requesting the download. So the absolutely crucial point is how the temple sweetens the strict red judgment of the universe by perfectly blending it with gold and white mercy. This is happening right in the middle of our Sephirotic engine. You see, the universe is constantly juggling two massive forces, a strict, limiting force associated with the color red and rigorous judgment, known as Gevurah, and then an expansive, giving force associated with white, gold, and infinite mercy, called Chesed. The physical temple in Jerusalem was literally the metaphysical laboratory where human actions blended these exact forces, neutralizing those harsh judgments and allowing pure mercy to just flow. Let's actually layer this so the whole family can grasp what's going on. Kids, think of this literally like a massive video game where your avatars use a portal to sync your save files. While adults, what you're really looking at are Sephirotic vessels triggering divine influx right at the center of cosmic harmony. It maps out perfectly. The 12 tribes are your players, your avatars. The 3 pilgrimage festivals are your scheduled server maintenance times, where you sync your game progress, and the temple itself, that's the portal. So for the cosmic engineers listening, the tribes are the physical vessels aligning the Sephirot. The festivals are the temporal triggers for the divine influx, and the temple itself is the ultimate nexus point of Sephirot. What's wild here is the sheer density of the numerology powering this cosmic engine. Kabbalah relies so heavily on numbers as the actual structural pillars of reality. And here we have this beautifully balanced equation. You have 10 Sephirot making up the Tree of Life, 12 tribes required to activate the system, 3 pilgrimage festivals providing the exact timing, all working together to unify 2 Jerusalems. If any single one of these numbers is missing, like if a tribe is absent or a festival is skipped, the entire equation gets unbalanced, and the sync just fails. So let's talk about those 12 tribes. They are the physical players, the avatars logging into the local device to initiate this metaphysical protocol. But why exactly 12? Well, in the mystical texts, the 12 tribes, often called Shivtei Yah, or the tribes of God, they correspond to the 12 diagonal boundaries of the universe. Basically, they represent every possible human archetype and spiritual frequency. For the earthly Jerusalem to fully wake up, all 12 of those unique frequencies had to be present, physically standing together in total unity to punch the access code into the local device. And the sources reveal a completely mind-bending truth about this. The 12 tribes ascend as Edut L'Yisrael, which means they act as a living, breathing testimony, proving that the lower world has perfectly aligned with the upper pattern. It's a beautiful concept from the Psalms that's heavily analyzed in the Zohar, using that word Edut, testimony. The Zohar explains that the physical presence of the tribes in Jerusalem isn't just a nice gathering, it's legal, cosmic testimony. Their unified physical bodies on the ground are testifying to the heavenly courts that, yes, the lower world has successfully mirrored the divine structure above. Yeah, you can't just run a massive system sync like this randomly on a Tuesday, right? It happens specifically during the 3 pilgrimage festivals, which serve as scheduled, high-bandwidth upload times. The cosmic calendar is hard-coded with 3 specific windows: Passover, Shavuot, and Sukkot. During these specific windows, the static or interference between the physical and spiritual worlds is at its absolute thinnest. The text described these festivals not just as historical holidays, but as actual metaphysical appointments, where the local device and the cloud server are perfectly aligned for data transfer. So let's see how this physical movement builds into the Sephirah of Yesod. The actual physical pilgrimage activates Yesod, throwing open the channel that allows the local device and the cloud to finally communicate. Yesod literally translates to foundation. It acts as the funnel or the pipeline in our Sephirotic engine. When the millions of footsteps of those 12 tribes hit the dusty roads heading toward Jerusalem during those 3 festivals, the literal kinetic energy of their physical movement stimulates Yesod. It cranks open the cosmic pipeline, preparing the entire system for the ultimate connection. And this is where it gets super layered. While the physical tribes are traveling the dusty roads below, the Midrash Hanilim tells us their souls are simultaneously ascending to the heavenly academy to stand as cosmic witnesses. The Midrash Hanilim is this incredibly deep, mystical layer of the Zohar literature, and it states that for every single physical step a pilgrim takes toward earthly Jerusalem, their soul takes a corresponding step into the Mitvita Darakia, the heavenly academy. So the physical body is testifying below, while the soul is testifying above. It's a perfect synchronous mirror. Ultimately, all of this energy pools into Tiferet, creating this perfect harmony in the earthly temple that acts as the final trigger for the sapphire light. Tiferet means beauty or harmony, and it sits dead center on the Tree of Life. The earthly temple physically sat in the geographic center of the world, which corresponds directly to Tiferet. This is the exact spot where that strict red judgment and the white mercy are finally balanced out. Once Tiferet achieves perfect harmony through the testimony of the tribes, boom, the lock clicks open. Which leads us to this literal cosmic decree found in the Zohar. The divine absolutely refuses to log into the upper Jerusalem until the lower Jerusalem is fully synced and activated. Lo abu b'Yushalayim shamala ad sha'abu b'Yushalayim shamata. The Creator essentially places an embargo on the heavenly realm. That stunning sapphire metropolis of Bina, it remains totally empty of the ultimate divine presence until the golden stones of Malchut are activated by human unity down here. The upper world is completely, 100% dependent on the lower world's initiative. So when that testimony is finally given, the temple light rises, the two dimensions just lock together, those harsh red judgments are sweetened, and the cloud downloads directly into the local device. This is the absolute climax, the moment of peak cosmic engineering. The earthly actions have completed the circuit. The sapphire light of Binah just cascades down the Sephirotic pipeline, rushing through Tiferet and completely flooding the earthly Jerusalem. In that moment, the physical and the spiritual become indistinguishable. It is the ultimate sync, a moment where the entire universe operates exactly as it was designed to.
Now you might be wondering, what does all this mean for us today? We obviously aren't physically walking to a golden temple right now, but listen, the mechanics of the sod remain entirely active. The daily physical actions we take, our malshut, are still the exact required trigger for our spiritual potential, our bina. By sweetening the strict judgments in our own lives with everyday acts of mercy, and by stepping forward in unity, we are literally participating in the exact same cosmic engineering outlined in these texts. The lower dimensions still hold the key to the upper ones.
So the big question I want to leave you with is, how can you use this incredible Sephirotic blueprint to align your own dimensions this week? What specific earthly actions are you going to take right now to trigger your highest spiritual potential? Thank you for joining us for this complete journey through the Pardes. We hope these ancient truths help you and your family improve your own dimensions this week. If you enjoyed this full chapter deep dive, please like, subscribe, and share which part of the journey touched your soul in the comments. We'll see you in the next chapter.